Tonight we continue our countdown to the NPP presidential primary. It's 10 days more to go, and it is getting really exciting. Did you see the statement issued, I believe today or yesterday, by the Dr. Bawumia camp, calling out Kennedy camp about an allegation and accusation against their camp that they utterly reject, and asking him to apologize? It is getting explosive as we approach the 31st of January. And that is why we need to talk to those in charge of the organization of the entire primary. And tonight we have the chairman of that committee with us to answer the questions that I know you have about the fairness of the process. He is here with us. I'll introduce him pretty shortly, but what do we know? We know 211,000 plus delegates will be voting at 333 polling centers across the country, across the constituencies of this great republic. So this is a national election, a primary with a national character, and your election headquarters will be all over it for you. And we'll be talking about preparations towards a primary. We'll talk about allegations of bias towards a particular candidate. And of course, safeguarding the unity before and after the primary. We are just a few hours to the signing of a peace pact. All 5 aspirants are traveling to Accra to sign this pact. Why is this even necessary for a political party? We've seen it at the national level, yes, but for a political party, why is this important? This man joining us tonight will explain. He is Joe Wise. Joe Osei-Owusu is the chair of the NPP's Presidential Committee, the supervising the entire primary, and I'm delighted to be hosting him tonight so he can answer those all-important questions ahead of 31st. Stay with me here on PM Express. And thank you very much for staying with us here on PM Express. It's always brought to you by Syntex Tanks. It is strong, it is tough. Also brought to you by Pepsodent Cavity Fighter. And if you're looking for the right tank to store water, then you need to look for the secret. It has the tortoise on it. Then it gives you the indication that it is the correct tank. That's the right tank, the tortoise tank. It's the champion of water tanks. It is strong and durable and built to handle our Ghanaian weather, rain or shine. Syntex tanks, it is strong, it is tough. Pepsodent Cavity Fighter, every time we eat, food and sugars are trapped between our teeth, leading to tooth decay, gum disease, and in some cases, foul breath. Brushing your teeth every morning and night with Pepsodent Cavity Fighter gives your teeth the protection they need, leaving you with a 10 times stronger teeth. This prevents cavities, keep your teeth strong and mouth healthy. Pepsodent Cavity Fighter, every smile matters. My guest in the studio is a man with great responsibility indeed. Joseph Osei-Owusu, chairman of NPP's Presidential Elections Committee, former First Deputy Speaker, and his task is very daunting. This contest is unlike any other the party had faced, also because of the background to it, coming from an election in 2024 that had seen a massive defeat for the party. It is also the election that will see they begin a rebuild, a proper rebuild of the party as they look to recapture power in 2028. So if you put that in that context, it's a major, major task, and he was selected to head it. He didn't complain. I wonder how he's faring with 10 days to go. Osei-Owusu, thank you very much.
Thank you too for the opportunity to educate the public on what we have done and what is pending.
Yes, and I was coming into this conversation thinking for a second that this task, I mean, we've had primaries, 2023, just 2 years ago, you had one. The context around that particular election was different. This is the first one in opposition.
Yeah.
And this choice is the ultimate choice before you come, because you reversed it. First time this is happening. So there's a lot of firsts around this. The first time you suffered this kind of defeat.
That's right.
That then begins up. This is the official commencement of the process of the rebuild, because whoever you elect, then, you know, when you were taking this task, did you sort of appreciate what you were putting yourself? Because the stakes are so high.
Yeah.
You get it wrong, as far as the playing field, the process, and it casts doubt on everything else.
Well, frankly, you may have noticed that I totally recuse myself from any political activity after 2025.
Absolutely right.
I declined to speak on any matter. Very few matters which were personal to me. Otherwise, I'm taking my retirement very seriously.
Yeah.
But the first one was an invitation to chair the national conference.
Okay.
I asked myself, would it be fair to abandon the party? And
in this time of need.
Yes. So I accepted to do it.
Okay.
With the conviction that if it must be done, it must be done well. It must be done to the extent that every participant will understand that this is our conference. And I focused on achieving that. And I'm satisfied that.
How have you fared?
The conference?
I mean, the conference, we know it ended, it was okay.
Right.
I'm talking about now, having decided that you couldn't abandon the party, so you understood. You went in with your eyes fully aware.
In fact, in this one, I wasn't expecting. I just received a call that we have decided that you should chair the Presidential Election Committee. I said, ooh, you know, I've retired, Mr. Speaker, we know, but we think that you're the one who can do it. I said, very well. There are times that if strong people don't stand up, the whole structure may collapse. So I accepted and I decided to stand up. I felt, should I say, persuaded that we must go and deliver results which everyone would accept that we did a very good job.
Okay.
So that has been the focus.
Okay.
Decisions have had to be taken against all kinds of pressures. But once we're satisfied at the committee that this is what we think will bring fairness, clear opportunity for everyone to feel at home, this is the way we're going. And so far, it's not been easy, but I think that we have managed to build sufficient confidence among the party people that we are taking the right
What
steps.
structures did you create to guide this process? Predictable structures that everybody can trust, transparent. What did you do?
Well, first we started with the rules. How are we going to play the game? We brought the rules, we distributed it to all the contestants, and we sat together with them. Not all of them appeared in person. Some sent their representatives. But we went through the rules together, discussed and agreed that these are the rules we'll play by. And I think that's the first step which gave the impression that, okay, check, if I allow you to breach the rule without sanction, then I'm not providing you sufficient a basis to be confident in me. Right, so we started consistently. Then we came to the register. There was a 2023 register, which at the conference we agreed that that would be the document originally, as was used in 2023, will be used for this election. But at the same conference, we amended the Constitution to allow new entrants, people like me who otherwise would not have been delegates, to become delegates. So we had to take steps to compile the list of all those people and to give confidence to all the contestants that nothing is being done to favor any one of the candidates as people had earlier speculated. We invited them to participate at every stage of the compilation. Once people filled their forms at the various constituencies, we sent groups to the constituencies, and at the verification level, at the constituency, you have entered your name that you are a former DCE. Your constituency executives are there. The contestants, their own agents, are also there. So we go through together. Where there are disagreements, donate them down and bring it to us. So when they brought the report, we also sat together with the representatives of the contestants, and we went through where there was controversies. We formed an in-house smaller committee to investigate the facts and report to us. And when the report came, the committee with the contestants sat through together and agreed at every step. So at every step in the compilation of the register, we worked with consensus. And at no point did we have to diverge or even vote on who says what or who. So far, I think that we've given every one of the contestants the confidence that this election committee will do everything possible to ensure fairness, openness, and transparency. Indeed, at this point, let me say that the committee has done all the things that was in our part. But we took a decision to cede the management of the voting itself to the Electoral Commission.
Okay. On voting day?
On voting day. We actually gave the selection of the locations for the voting, the polling stations, to the Electoral Commission.
Okay.
They brought the list to us. We distributed to all the contestants. We allowed them to make their comments on each one of them. Earlier this week, last week, yes, we met with the Electoral Commission. The commissioner herself and her two deputies and their directors were with us. The director of election security from Ghana Police joined us.
Okay. The
contestants. We all went through to discuss the agreed rules for managing the process. And then the EC itself also gave us, these are the rules I will use to regulate the voting.
Okay.
And it gave copies to everyone. If you have any complaints, please bring it out so we'll discuss it. We're all satisfied. There were a few, I think 2 polling stations that the constituent had brought a petition asking that they relocate the voting. The EC said, very well, we have received it, but we'll send it back to the region and let the regional people confer and advise us. Yesterday, they all confirmed that where the constituencies had requested that it be moved to was sufficient for the purpose, is good, and they were all agreed. So we're ready with that one. As we speak now, the balloting is being printed.
Okay.
Every contestant has his agents there, 2, but 1 at a time monitoring it. If you're monitoring, you get tired, the other person comes to replace you. Okay. So that at every stage, they are all represented.
Where is it being printed?
There's a press, I won't disclose the name, but the EC gave us 3, and we negotiated.
Same as we use for the national elections.
That's right, yes, okay. Yeah. Then, security of the elections. We decided that the Ghana Police should take full control of the election security. First and foremost, we introduced a bill to disband party security across board. Yeah. And so we have no in-house security group. Okay. Therefore, we are relying entirely on the Ghana Police.
Can people go there with their bodyguards?
For the contestants, we allow them to accompany. We don't know whether either your bodyguards or your wife or your children. Okay. But anytime a contestant is entering the arena for voting, you'll be allowed 2 people to accompany him. That's all. If you have 10, the remaining 8 will wait outside the arena for voting. That's how we have planned it. The police met with all of us yesterday. The electoral commissions were represented, the contestants were represented, the party and the commission. And they took us through their preparation for the voting day.
How many men are they deploying?
They told us they will deploy between 70 to 150 per polling station. That's because the stakes are high and they want to be sure that
70
it's incident-free.
So give me a range. Let's sort of put this in context. Each polling station will have what range of delegates?
Depending on how you're rated, if you're considered as a high flashpoint, your number is the highest, 150. Okay. If you're not considered as a flashpoint at all, the low-risk security, your number is 70.
Low-risk security and still has 70 police officers?
That's right. So
to police how many delegates per center on the average?
Well, in total, I think the delegates range from 700 to some, as Dam Kwabenya is almost 2,000.
Okay.
Yes, so in the areas where the police suspect that there could be commotion, they have determined and they have prepared to monitor those places such that there cannot be any commotion, that they can accommodate any number of miscreants that anybody will bring to the voting center. And indeed, those decisions are influenced by some of the comments of the contestants. Some have been very loud in saying, try me, we'll bring this. So, you know, I personally had a meeting with their representatives and tried to find out from them whether they have any reason to feel threatened or so on. They each assured me that at least as at the day we're having that meeting, there was no threat. So I requested them to tell their contestants to tone down on the way they discuss security, because it had the danger of heightening tension when indeed there was none. But the police were taking those things more seriously than I did, and they have prepared for that. On top of that number, they have patrol teams standing by, and they have their high-end guys also standing by. So that
the rapid response units that can be called upon when the situation is beyond.
That's exactly the case. So I will say that as at today, everything that we have to do as a committee, we have done it satisfactorily. In fact, each one of the contestants' representatives openly praised the committee and said that they are satisfied with what we have done up to the time that we are handing over to the Electoral Commission and the police. So they rather plead with the police and the national security to make sure that where they're taking it from, they also give the same assurance, the same level of openness and fairness as the committee has done. I'm confident that the EC team will do exactly that. And the police, I recall when we went to brief the former president, he asked us about the number of police, and we were suggesting, about 10 per polling station. So yesterday we were very pleasantly surprised.
70 to 150.
Yes, it makes us very comfortable. So I have appealed, and I repeated the appeal to each of the contestants represented yesterday, that there's no need for anybody to bring any other security. It will not be necessary, because the Ghana police are sufficiently prepared for us. So far, let me say that we have moved very fast. We have done very well. We have been extremely transparent, and the contestants have openly acknowledged that we have done the best.
I've spoken to a few of their senior reps today as well to Kwabena Japan. He's happy with what has happened, but that hasn't stopped some from still raising concerns. So come to that. There is a peace pact tomorrow.
Yes.
What's the peace pact?
Well, it is a practice started from the last election. It was decided that after we have gone through all the processes before the election, let each one of the contestants sign an agreement with one another that when the results are declared, they will accept the results and they will pledge to work with whoever is declared the winner, and they will continue to work for the party to get the victory. So it's largely a negotiated agreement. For me, it is not new. Anytime we contested, for those of us who were MPs, before the primaries, we were made to sign an undertaking, each one of us. So practically it's an undertaking that we are bringing together for all the contestants to sign in the presence of all those who matter. Our past presidents have been invited to come. National officers will be available. Former Chief of Staff has been invited to come. The Peace Council has been invited and they have accepted to come. The police have been invited and the IGP has personally pledged to come.
Okay.
It shows how the country generally takes this thing seriously, because whether we like it or not, these two parties are the backbone of democracy in this country, and it is in the interest of the country that they are seen to be stable and organizing fairly and freely.
So the text of that the pact says, if you don't win, you're committing to support the other, to throw your weight behind the winning candidate.
Exactly, but it starts with affirming that you have observed the process up to date. It has been fair, transparent, and inclusive.
Okay.
Because I think it is important for everybody to understand that as at the time we signed the agreement, nobody has any complaint. Everybody appears satisfied with what we have done so far. So you then don't have any basis for saying the system, as was often touted, the system, the election was skewed to support a system candidate. Nothing weighed heavily on us at our work. So we're determined to make sure that nobody will have any basis for making any such statement. If you choose to be just just make such an accusation, you cannot get any evidence to support it. So we work very closely with them to make sure that at every stage, nobody had a basis to complain.
Okay, so, but they then, in this pact also would have to commit to say they will accept the outcome of the poll on the 31st. And in the last few days, we've been speaking to the representatives of the various aspirants. Today I spoke to Kwabena Japan. All of them, bar none, say they're willing to sign, but they have a caveat. Provided the actual poll is free and fair on the day. What do you make of that caveat?
Well,
they will sign, but whether they adhere to it post-elections is all dependent on what happened on the 31st.
I think that it is fair for everybody to feel apprehensive if they have any reason to believe that the poll will not be fair. As I've said, they have all acknowledged that so far the committee has worked very fairly, openly with them. Now, the election management has been given to another body, a body that is constitutionally responsible. It has all the resources, the personnel, and the experience. I cannot close my eyes and envisage what will make members of the Electoral Commission want to skew the election one way or the other. And therefore, I do not share their anxieties, but I believe strongly that there will be no reason not to abide by the pact, because each one of them will see that election is free and fair. Yesterday I spoke with GNA, Ghana News Agency, and they asked questions about should anybody, any of the EC officials, misconduct themselves in such a way that it becomes a problem. I clearly told them that if anything happens that affects the integrity of the poll in any one of the polling stations, I will quickly annul the elections at that particular polling station. And if it affects the overall results, we'll redo the election in that.
But considering that the rules have been set by the EC itself, shouldn't they be the rules that they set the rules as far as the day it's concerned, so they can then determine whether a rule has been broken or not, whether one of those principles?
Because they are the ones in charge, it is their ruling that will form the basis of any decision.
So that's how it's going to work.
That's right.
It will be adjudicated by the Electoral Commission itself.
Yes.
And then once the decision is taken, you apply the sanction.
That's right.
Okay. And the candidates know this?
Yes. I told this to the EC. In fact, the EC chair herself also said that if there's any misconduct, you'll annul the elections.
Okay. Okay. There will be no question of rerun. This is annulment.
You see, if the votes from there, even after annulment, one of the candidates gets 50% plus one, then it becomes a moot question. But if after annulling that, none of the candidates gets 50% plus one, then we'll go back and redo this one. The polling station is annulled, and the results of that will then determine whether we'll do a rerun or we will announce one of them as a winner.
Yeah. On the question of the pact, which fundamentally says if you don't win, you'll support whoever wins, and you're committing to accept the outcome. Fundamentally, you want to build cohesion and unity post-elections. And so you would have to publicly then come and having signed it to say, I'm throwing my weight behind, although I lost. Today, I asked Kwabena Japan if he will support Kennedy Japan if Ken wins. He says he will not answer that question. Why? Because Ken was asked the same question and he says no comment. And so he cannot publicly also commit to whether he's going to support him or not. But then he sort of explains that for the party's sake, this is something that he's done in the past. That throws up an issue. I mean, but meanwhile, before I asked him about Ken, I asked him about me, and he was very emphatic. They had no qualms at all. But I said, nice gentleman, he will support him in the day. But he won't say that about Ken, because he says he's had him also when he was asked, if you don't win at this win, would you support it? He won't comment. That presents a problem ahead of the signing, does it not?
Well, prospective. That is prospective.
Yeah.
And as I said, all they have said is that provided the election is free and fair, I'm convinced that we'll have a free and fair elections, and nobody will have any basis to use the election as at now, at this close of registration, nomination, everything. They have no basis to complain. What is outstanding is election day, and I'm convinced that that day will be so clean, fair, that nobody will have a basis to complain. But we are human. Sometimes we are emotional. Emotions often influence thinking. So I believe that whatever emotions that may influence somebody to behave differently from what he has aspirated to is only a matter of time. They will come around it. I had a meeting with the Council of Elders today, and this matter came up. And one of the senior members said, elections, whatever elections you have, losing can be very painful. And he gave his own experiences. Incidentally, practically every one of them has gone through one election or another. So they've all experienced a defeat before. So they all acknowledge that it can be emotionally traumatic. But we need to allow people time to heal. So, yes, some people may not necessarily commit to the pact, the terms of the pact, but I believe strongly that as long as the rank and file of the party stand up and start working together, we will overcome any challenges that will come.
What are the consequences of violating the terms of the pact once you sign, if any?
Should I say there should be consequences?
It's a pact. If you break the pact or violate its terms, there must be clear sanctions and then penalties for that.
This is not intended to be, what is the legal term you use? It's not intended to have that legal consequences. It's a fraternal arrangement of the party to give assurance to one another and to give assurance to the rank and file of the party that after the election, we should expect that the party will stand together. Sometimes those things don't happen, but over time, we overcome them. it also gives confidence to the voters, not to feel in any way intimidated, but to vote for the one they like, not fearing that somebody or another may break the party up. Once you sign the pact, it assures you that if you want Kilson, vote for Kilson. If you want Thompson, vote for Thompson. Whoever wins in the end. And I like what Kwabena Japon said on air another time. I don't know whether it was you said. We should be very careful in our choice of words, because whatever happens, only one out of us 5 will win. And so if you describe anyone thinking that you will win, and you describe any one of the others in terms that makes it difficult for you to participate in his campaign, you rather are undermining the party's cohesion in future. So, so far, we are trying our best to keep matters at this level, very fair, transparent, to ensure the kind of confidence that will make people feel safe to sign the pact.
You've talked about the confidence that the candidates themselves repose in the process so far. But there are stalwarts who have raised questions about, because your work, fundamentally, you've repeated this, that you were determined to ensure that the process leading in is free, fair, and that you build consensus. But you hear stalwarts like Professor Frimpong-Boateng, whose verdict isn't as applauding of the work that you've done. He was asked a question. He says, look at how the NPP elected their last flagbearer, twisting weak people's hands, bribing delegates, intimidating others. He was then asked a question about the current party executives working towards the primaries. And the question was about whether Bawumia again is being helped unfairly. And his answer was emphatic yes.
That Bawumia was being
helped unfairly, helping to make Bawumia win. And he replied with an emphatic yes.
Well,
that's his verdict on the process so far, that the playing field is still not level.
I haven't heard that till now, but that's very disappointing. I would have loved to have him and let him show the evidence that suggests that Bawumia is being helped unfairly. Of course, when it comes to opinions, you can never force anybody to accept opinion A or opinion B. But for me, the biggest verdict is from the contestants themselves, who are actively involved in the process through their contestants or personally themselves. And as far as they don't feel that any one of the 5 is being helped, I think that I'll forgive Professor Frimpong-Boateng for making a comment which is so unfair of the process. But
is the playing field level?
I don't know what you call the playing field. I've taken you through the process. 1, the same rules applies to all of them. We all together built the register. We have all together agreed at every level. They themselves admit that the process has been transparent. As to what happens at the campaign, unfortunately, I haven't been to any of the campaigns. I don't know what happens constituency by constituency. But so far, I'm not sure that any one of the contestants have complained that they have had difficulties reaching the contestants. How the contestants receive you or how you get to them is
You mean the delegates?
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, I'm confusing content. The delegates receive you is a matter often depends more on you and your organization. This committee has apparently no role at all in how the campaigns are conducted by the contestants. And to that extent, I would say the playing field has been very, very fair, transparent, and very participatory for the contestants.
So on that same point, on January 12, just last week, there was a press conference by Brian Champon's head of operations, and this was held in the northern region, and where they raised alarm about what they believe to be, quote, regional executives continue to coerce the delegates into supporting Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and they said they were going to take drastic action if this didn't stop. They also then go ahead to cite some examples. At this press conference, where they claim they have recordings of delegates being strong-armed into endorsing Bawumia, something they've been told will not happen. These are concerns, and the press conferences have been held about this. Has any of this come to your attention?
Unfortunately, I hear them on air. Nobody has brought any such complaint to us. And so I'm not sure. Often, if we had the mandate to do it, I'll be very thorough. I'll go to the very bottom of it. But in matters like this, we expect that the national executive will take charge. I recall when we had a meeting with all the contestants, one of the contestants raised an issue, which for me was a legitimate one, that there are 5 of them contesting, but you send a message that you're going to meet a constituent, and then before you get there, another contestant's wife or a team of the contestant is there, and then they have to reschedule your programs and so on. We refer the matter to the national executives. The national executives said they actually have given instructions to the regional executives as to how they should manage the election, that each contestant should be assigned a regional officer who will be responsible for leading that regional officer's campaign in the region and so on. According to them, they have given their list that the people have been assigned. So how their agents or their representatives in the region permit other people to interfere with their campaign, I can't explain it. But generally, these are things which I think is the national executive particularly, which we must make sure.
I guess the concern for some of the candidates is that the national executives themselves, are they fair arbiters in this? Because there's a suggestion that from some, that some of the executives are already aligned, and so you can trust them to do that job. Isn't it prudent to have had that sort of a committee similar to yours, independent of the current established executive structure, to look into these matters independently and come to a conclusion, than leaving it to the executives who have already been tagged as belonging to one camp or the other?
Well, it's difficult to confirm or deny when you're talking about individuals. What I do know, and I've attended only 2 council meetings where I was invited to give a presentation about the committee's work and so on. But I believe that the national executive officers do hear such complaints, and they should worry them.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, reputation is everything. Your integrity is everything. So you should not permit people to make aspersions if those are not true. But I believe if they have to respond, they will. But otherwise, they may not be as accurate as. After all, my committee has been accused of skewing in favor of one candidate, something which is totally untrue. So sometimes some people do make allegations which are not verifiable or are not justifiable.
I'm pretty sure you've been observing the campaign so far. What would be your verdict on the conduct of the campaign by the 5 aspirants and their camps? Satisfied with the decorum, the way it's been carried, the way all 5 represent the party to the rest of us?
I truly wish that we would have done better than we have done. The Council of Elders invited me to a meeting which was held for the contestants. And the main issue was to ask them to focus on telling the delegates what they would do if they are elected to make sure the party wins power. Unfortunately, I've seen and heard comments which are not necessarily as they have been requested to do. Often describing one opponent or another in terms which are truly not reflective of a party seeking to reorient the people towards it. I truly wish that each one of them would focus on what he will bring to the table if he was given the mandate. But the worst is not from the contestants themselves. It's from their supporters.
Yep.
Sometimes I get angry and I call national officers and ask, did you see this? Did you hear that? What can't we do anything about it? Of course, they say our party constitution does not permit the individuals to take any action, so they have referred the matters to the disciplinary committee. I'm aware that some of the people involved in those matters have actually appeared before the disciplinary committee, but the public would have loved to see the outcome, to hear. If I'm the one accused of doing that, you take the evidence and you truly want to see what action we're taking against the person. If it is not true, be bold to say that our investigation so that what was reported is not the fact. Of course, in today's terms, I can be sitting here and what will be coming out of my mouth will be different from what I'm saying here. So it is practically possible to have people set up and words come out of their mouth which are not their words. So when you come to a conclusion that those things attributed to the person are not what the person said, I suggest that it should boldly come out and publish it. But if it is true, then the punishment must also be boldly punished to show that we're a party that is serious about discipline. For me, we are not doing well in that respect at all.
And isn't that a part of the big problem? Because a party that is in dire need of rebranding because of what has happened in the past, you think that this would be primary focus?
Yes.
To show to the public that we are ready to change, to do things differently. You haven't seen it. That can be a good commentary on the party seeking to recapture power in 2028.
I agree with you. We have to, like you said, rebrand, demonstrate that we mean well what we say. When we promise that we will ensure discipline, we are actually demonstrating that. So I think that this reorganization is a starting, but that's all our urge, all people seeking to become national officers, to show that they are willing and capable of ensuring discipline in the party.
I mean, it's fascinating because on the 15th of September last year, an ad hoc committee was formed to oversee the conduct of the aspirants, and they were giving a three-pronged focus area to look at monitoring the comments, actions, and conduct of all aspirants and their followers during the campaign period. They had received and reviewed petitions from aspirants regarding hate speech, insult, and abusive language, and then recommended disciplinary measures. They had some strong men on that. Kwesi Abiesi was the chairman, Alec Glover, Ato Hamilton, Kojo Afari, Marco Poku secretary, and they were supposed to do exactly what you're suggesting. Yeah. I'm not a party insider, but I haven't heard of any overt work that this committee had done that had led to some scrutiny internally or some public, punishment for anybody. Because the internet and our airways is littered with really serious incendiary comments.
Yes.
Tribal, downright insulting candidates, and nobody's calling anybody to order. Although we have a committee of strong individuals on it. What's happened to this committee? Well,
at our meeting today with the Council of Elders, we asked about that. If they have done any such thing, we'll be glad to have a report of that. But we're only invited guests. So when we finished, we had to leave for them to continue. So probably, if there are any such report, it will come out very soon. I have, though, met Mr. Biesi at the head office for one of such meetings. Okay. A very strong team, and some people had been hauled before the committee, but I haven't seen the report. That's what I'm talking about. If after hearing them, you find that the allegation is not true, be bold and bring it out. If you found that the allegation is true, do recommend action.
Yeah. Should it be done publicly?
Why not?
As a confidence boosting
Why not?
measure? If
you insult publicly, why shouldn't your punishment be made public?
Okay.
So that's what I'm hoping and I'm looking out that we should start demonstrating that we're capable of ensuring discipline in our party.
In the sum, I've suggested that what is happening is also a consequence of the inverted approach to the election of the executives, because now the executives who should be enforcing the rules themselves know that the process is about to begin. They are not setting, but then they are about to elect the alpha, who obviously has control over the party when it's elected. I guess that's part of the thinking why you're inverting it. And so everybody's waiting to see who emerges, and then the party is called to order, because now there's only one authority before you have anything else. Isn't that why this is happening? Because I've heard party folks tell me, oh, when we elect our flag bearer, order will prevail. Because now there's no order and there's chaos, and because there's nobody.
Well, the order will prevail because competition will be over.
Yeah.
The competition is what is generating all the talk. Because I support you and not him, I'll use most unfortunate words to describe him. Then his supporters will also use most unfortunate words to describe you. It's like a competition, and somebody said a competition to hell, which is, for me, most unbecoming of us. But it's also a reflection of the times we are in as a country, generally.
How do you mean?
Generally. I don't know when we started losing our decency as a people.
Okay.
But indecent language has become very popular in our body politic across board on all matters. I recall this your studio sometime here about 8 or so years ago. I brought that matter up, that the way indecent language is growing in our political discussion, if we don't check it, it will overwhelm us, and we are close into that. And for that one, those of us who are retiring probably should take responsibility for failing to nip it in the bud and allowing it to grow. But generally, for me, it's a serious matter. It's a real serious matter. The way we entertain indecent language on national platforms, we should check it. It is going to get worse if you allow it to continue to grow.
I'm curious to learn what your view is on the party. Let's talk a bit about the party itself now. You are retiring, so when you're going to retirement, your perspective on things is very different. You can get a clearer view now because you're not so your interest is more party than personal, because now you don't have a personal contest to go around. So what's your view on the back of the defeat in 2024? What's your view on where the party is now? How dire, for us who watch, we believe this is very dire. Maybe we have an exaggerated view of the problem. How bad is it?
I think it's as bad as, I want to be careful which words. It's as bad as how we perceive it. I've looked at the statistics, I've looked at the figures, I've looked at the numbers. Some other international bodies have come and done some investigation of the research. They've given us information.
So the party hired them to do it?
No, they came on their own.
Okay, but what's your interest?
Their interest is, how is your democracy faring? And they have done the research, they have given us a report. Our situation is not as bad as this.
As in the NPP?
Yes, but for me, I want NPP people to feel as bad as we can perceive, because that will make us take our work, party people, seriously. So, in 2017, how different was the NDC's loss?
After the December 7, 2016
election. Not too different, right? But what is important is to accept that, hey, I was here, now I've come here. I'm capable of going back here. If I'm going to be able to get there, what must I do differently? And that is why I said, let it be as bad as the party people perceive it, because that would influence our thinking, our behavior, and our next steps. So, as a politician, I do not panic. I am not panicking. I think that I'm more interested in the effort we are doing, the effort we are putting in managing leaders on the ground.
What do you mean? That
As far as I'm concerned, national officers, regional officers, they've never interested me. They represent the party on national thing. But those who truly do the work are on the ground there. If I were a leader, that's where I'll focus. Resources, mindset training, and preparing people to behave like leaders on the ground. That's where I'll focus. And over there, we are present at every constituency. We know our strengths. We know where our weaknesses are. And we can always refocus if we are interested in building our party. So, yes, we did badly in this last election. It's not, we have done worse than this before.
When?
We merged, in 96 election, how many seats did we get? We didn't get to this number.
In the context, I've heard, you're not the first person in the party who has mentioned, and I say, in the context of the times then, 1996, voter population-wise, you're just starting off, you've written the stolen verdict 4 years prior. This is a party that was, in every sense of the word, about growing, finding its feet, organizing still, the GH Mensens were there, but the likes of you and the intellectual base was not trying to bring people in the fold. So
that at the time I went to become a polling station chairman?
Okay. So the quality at the time.
So the point I'm making.
Yeah.
I was a practicing lawyer, but I didn't fight at the regional level. I went to be the polling station chairman, and I helped build the constituency. By the time I became the constituency chairman, the party was on top.
Yeah.
Right? And so my interest is we should take a keen interest in recruiting who is managing the party on the ground. Our constitution does not even say election. Our constitution says selection. We have interpreted selection to mean selection by election. But there's nothing that forces us to continue to do that. And probably it's the time to look at who do we select?
I'm very curious about the external research that suggests it's not as bad. How in God's universe isn't it as bad? Because the numbers were the numbers. What dynamics did you see that painted that picture?
Well, they showed us some things we had not put our minds on. They showed in clear terms.
Such as?
Well, those are for party discussions at another time. They're not for public consumption. But that's what I said. If you look at all those things, we didn't fare as badly, just that probably we allowed ourselves to be hoodwinked, intimidated in areas that shouldn't have been.
NDC intimidated you?
Well,
that's a thing to say, considering that they were in opposition. You were in government, and an opposition party intimidated an incumbent. That's something.
Well, you saw in the last election, NDC were truly organized like a force, whereas we had dismantled all our forces, trying to be true to the law we had passed.
Define forces.
Forces mean organization, strength, protection of your party on the ground. We had abandoned all that, okay, whereas they were organized, seriously organized. We were depending entirely on national security police, whereas they moved beyond that and organized themselves into a real force, ready to fight the police, ready to fight the military, seizing their weapons, overwhelming them such that the police themselves gave up. That had never happened in our elections, had it? So some of the things that happened will inform how we behave in the next election.
So is that to say that they won because of their vigilance?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that after the election, some review had given us, revealed some information we had overlooked. And it gives us hope that we are not as bad.
You know, you say that, and I've said this before. It was very clear that you were outwitted. The NDC organized across the country.
Much better.
They had an eagle eye, and as if the teams were on standby to pounce and set in.
Yeah.
You guys were asleep.
Completely, totally.
And by, I think, a few results coming in, and you saw the way they were able to deploy very quickly, very swiftly. And the slightest suggestion that they had mobilized already with a few minutes, and their guys were there on the ground. To think that an opposition party did that to an incumbent is fascinating.
Yes, it is, indeed. It was all clear. Fortunately, the media were there. They showed us all the things that happened. It shows that we had become overconfident in relying on the national security. We're hoping that the police service, which were responsible for protecting everyone, were properly organized and well-resourced to deal with any such thing. And probably, you know, the 2020 election did not experience any such things. And therefore, we probably thought that we had gone beyond that kind of conduct in our electoral process. For us, for example, we went ahead to pass a law claiming to have disbanded everything and that to be prosecuted and so on. I think that was a little naive of us.
But that's a suggestion that you're going to be bringing back party security.
I haven't said so. I said we will be informed by what happened in 2020.
So you're going to build your forces?
I haven't said that. My mother says that if somebody hits your head, he says strengthen your neck.
So you're going to strengthen your forces?
We're strengthening our neck.
But more fundamentally, you can see that isn't the reason you lost. The reason you lost was your performance in government, fundamentally.
Maybe.
Is there a maybe around that? I mean,
as for how people perceive, how people conclude, I am open to all suggestions.
What is your own reason, or the real reason you lost as it relates to your performance in government?
Let that be your verdict.
Because you
share your verdict.
Because you're an insider, it would be good to, and also not only an insider, at the time that you went to the polls, you're already taking the back seat. And so you had a good view of what was happening.
You see,
and the thing
in
about
my constituency, I had just come out of major surgery, so I was not very active. But the morning of the voting, I went around with my driver. I went to about 15 polling stations, and I called the party and said, what is happening? This is not usual. The people are not coming out to vote. Right?
And this is a stronghold, so you'd have noticed what's happening.
That's a constituency where we win close to 90%. So by 12 o'clock, all the voting areas were empty. I checked the numbers, and the turnout is a little under 50%. Hey, what are you doing? Please move out. Go bring people. Where are the teams? You know, something was fundamentally dissatisfactory to the constituents. Something made them not feel obliged to do what they consider as their duty. How we find out what it is one of the challenges we must deal with. You interact with the people every day. Not all of them will open up to you, but you get a few. And what they tell us should form the basis of how we rebuild our party. And that should make us understand that people expect us to serve them in a different way from what we have been, they have seen us do.
You think lessons have been learned and are being applied to change?
Lessons have been learned, but you don't expect individuals to behave. The organization must restructure and provide the leadership. That's why we are starting the process early.
Okay. So this really is a make or break decision. If you guys get it wrong, the delegates get it wrong, it's going to deepen your woes, you believe?
Certainly. But I can't see how an election, a winner will be if you must get 50% plus one.
Yeah.
If the 211,000 people voting, half of that gives you the nod, it cannot be wrong.
Okay. Delegates would have decided.
That's it. So whatever decision...
And you live with the consequence, whoever you elect.
The delegates, whoever the delegates choose, he is the choice of the party. And we must all rally around the person and work with him for a victory in 2028.
I'm going to take a quick break. When I return, I'll pick his thoughts on a few national issues. And then himself, he's doing his job as a umpire for this poll. But what role can he play in this rebuild? Of course, apart from when this structure is finished. I'll pick his thoughts after this. And thank you very much for staying with us here on PM Express and having a conversation with a man who is leading the process towards the elections. He's been working with all the aspirants in an attempt to create a level playing field to have a free and fair poll on January 31st. But before he took up that role, he was a member of parliament, he was a deputy speaker, and so he has a view on the current state of the country. But I want to start quickly, get your thought on Parliament. The Parliament, you've not sat in for a while. I'm pretty sure you've been observing. I'm pretty sure you've been observing the way Parliament are conducting it, especially because of the dynamics in Parliament now. We haven't seen it before in God knows how long, to have this huge imbalance in favor of the NDC. And your party is as it's been called, micro-minority. Don't like that, but it's just the numbers that tell the story. When you watch it unfold, how do you feel? Do you wish you were there to lend a hand?
No.
No?
Let me be frank. I was full up to my neck at the time.
I remember having a conversation with you and you just didn't want to tolerate any
more. I'm done. I'm truly done. I'm happy to be a senior citizen and share my experiences with my colleagues as and when they seek my advice. But what I think for the minority they should focus on is not any vote in the chamber. You can't influence any decision. But that does not mean that you cannot present yourself as a better alternative. And so my suggestion, I think I met them at a training session, that just focus yourself as a better alternative. And unless you're targeting the middle class here, the focus should be in your constituency, whether you like it or not. What you do here is likely to influence your neighbor. Yeah. And so if you work hard, you can give confidence in your constituency, which will influence the thinking of the next constituency. And it may change your fortunes of your party. So far, I think I've seen them really presenting a very good front, right? But it is still way too early to make any value judgment on anybody.
1 year has gone already.
Well.
And as you know how the cycle goes, you effectively have 2 years now.
Yeah.
2 years, in fact, 2.5 years, because then once the election process, campaigning begins very quickly. So you don't have enough time.
Well, I don't think 2.5 years is a short time at all in politics. It is enough. What you consistently do is what will make people take confidence in you. If you consistently evaluate and predict, and it happens. You evaluate, you predict, and it happens. Then people get confidence in you. And truly, so far, I think what I've seen, the discussion of the budget, very good, consistent. demonstrating how pledges made in 2024 2025 budget did not happen. Allocations made were not delivered, showing, in fact, the outcome, so far, the claim to be doing well cannot be found in any policy. These are the things that the middle class interested in. But for those of us who are not talking about the economy, the things that really matter are what is not happening in your constituency, notwithstanding the alleged huge sums of money paid to the constituency. Most of the time, what gets done, very little from the figures that we hear. So if you focus, very easy to demonstrate that for this much, you should be able to deliver that many. So demonstrate that you're being shortchanged.
You've talked about, you said the current administration's work that has been done. You use the word claim in terms of the benefits that we've been told we are all experiencing, but we've not been told we're experiencing it, right?
Really?
What's your assessment of the current economic climate and John Mahama's 1 year?
Let me say that first, I'm not an economist, so I look at me.
Yes.
In the last 1 year, I live at Bekwai. I don't know anything that the price has not gone up a little.
Fuel
anything
has gone down.
Fuel.
At the pumps, yes.
But yes, it's not because they did anything, because the source, where we buy it from, has gone down.
That's not true.
Is that not true?
CD, primary factor is the CD's appreciation again in its strength and stability.
When was the last
factor of economic management?
I don't see which economic management we're talking about. CD, the intervention of taking your gold, buying dollars and dumping it in, if you call that an intervention, I won't challenge you. But the real thing is that, how does that affect the everyday person?
A lot. I mean, fundamentally, fuel is everything.
You're talking about it as a consumer. Talk to the businessman. The kinds of things that he had purchased earlier, and now he has to raise the same money and go back. Whether the same, he will accept the same verdict as you are giving. So the dynamics differ depending on where you sit. Okay? I've heard about big push. I've heard about supporting agriculture, for example. I tried to do something in agriculture, and in the last 1 year, I've practically put everything I earned into a Tedeca farm. I didn't get support in any way, not even a pin. You get me? But what are my returns? What are my returns? How is that making me live in retirement comfort? So I would like to see policy and the implementation of the policy and what it does. So far, I'm yet to see any policy implementation which we have done the tracking to see the effect beyond gold. Of course, that is not anything new, is it? Gold Board took over an existing program. We've done a lot of propaganda around it. It doesn't appear that the very benefits we are getting is equal to the investment we have made in.
So you don't give John Mahama any credit. At least when you drive to your pump today, you're buying fuel at 10 cedis thereabout. At one point, we're buying it at petrol at 17 cedis, under 18 cedis, but it's gone to 10. That is definitely one that they must take credit for.
I don't know.
And it's very, very
frankly,
fundamental.
I've heard people say that, but probably I didn't take note of. I just say, give me 500 cedis. And I practically don't take note of how many liters that is often. I just give my money, I check my gauge, and I'm moving. So I'm practically, it's only in terms of, I think 2 days ago, one of my group platforms, we are all retirees, and somebody brought that thing up. So I said, oh, the next time I buy fuel, I'll check. So I'm not denying that that may have happened, but truly,
it's happened, not me. It's actually.
How is that reflecting the transport fares for the everyday person?
So the everyday person, obviously, transport fares haven't gone up this year.
But neither has it gone down.
Last year, but they brought it down by 15%. Right? So that's
and has the fuel gone down since?
The fuel has gone down quite significantly.
And has the fuel price fare gone down since?
Yesterday, the GPR2 guy was here and he was talking about looking for a bit more sustainability in the pricing before but whatever it is, there's a knock-on effect that you are currently enjoying because you're a private driver. I am enjoying as well as a driver. The dollar is weak.
I live at Bekwai. The longest place I go is less than 2 kilometers. So if I buy fuel, very, very little. But everyday people who move, who travel long distances to go and bring goods and services which service the whole community, if the effect is not felt by them, the benefit will not be felt by me, who is also living on their services. So I don't disagree that the fuel prices have gone down. To be fair, I have not paid attention because I don't buy fuel often. But the effect on the economy should reflect in the everyday businesses, everyday traders' business.
Yeah.
Everyday people they are now claiming they can't even get the vehicle to move around.
Finally, before we wrap up, because you're a lawyer and you believe in jurisprudence and the way our systems conduct themselves, let me ask you about the way this government had attempted to hold some of your former colleagues in government accountable. We've seen the arrests, the detentions, the complaints about unjust treatment in detention, etc. What's your reading of? Attorney General has been updating us on very detailed. Sometimes he's been criticized for trial by media. What do you make? What do you say?
First and foremost, I'm not a believer in or let me put it the other way. I don't believe the political class should be above the criminal system. You're giving a public trust, you are accountable. If you breach the rule, you must pay the consequences. I believe in that firmly. However, I'm seeing a new trend. I'm arrested today, or sometimes I'm just even invited. I go and then they detain me and they put bail conditions which are unheard of. I have not been tried, I've not been convicted of any offense. But because you allege that I've committed this offense, you're making it impracticable for me to even mobilize my defense. That generally should be a matter of concern for everybody. As to the accusations, whatever the Attorney General says in the media, for me, it doesn't matter. Put your evidence before the court. If the person has committed the offense indeed, the court will try the person and convict him or her. That person then will be paying or suffering the penalty of his or her misconduct. That I am fully in support of that. But we should be very careful not to create the impression that because we are from different political sides, I've got the opportunity, so I am punishing you even before I put you before them.
Having said that, it's important to wrap up on this then. Should Oforiatta decide to come back then?
It's entirely up to him. It's entirely up to him. But as far as I'm concerned, if he has committed any offense, proceed. Put your evidence before the judge.
Without him here?
Yes.
In the jurisdiction?
Are there no provisions for trial in absence? There are. For me, so far, made it easy for, if I were Oforiatta, said, what is it that I'm alleged to have done? Am I required to support you in your investigations? By law, even if he's here, could just said, I have nothing to say. What will you do? I have nothing to say. The law says that you're not bound to say anything. And that is what they mean by reading you your rights. I have nothing to say. So whatever information you have, that put together, affirm that I have committed an offense. It's up to you to put them together and put before a charge. I think we should be focusing on deepening our practice. I don't like this circus when it comes to political appointees and political officers. We make the trials look like they are different from other crimes. And that is why sometimes people don't believe that we mean well. For me, if I were Attorney General, I would not even discuss the individuals. You have evidence that Joe Osei-Owusu have committed an offense, mobilize my resource witnesses, and I put you before court. Just like any other criminal has been put before court. The moment you start giving it publications without putting the person before charge, you make it easy for a person to claim that, hey, they are persecuting me. If he had been caught stealing from this studio, would there be any press conference? Is it not the same Attorney General? So if I have committed offense, do you need a press conference? Just put me before the court. We should stop this attempt at winning in the media. Because many a times, you check, we create that huge euphoria, and in the end, there's no conviction. You make people lose confidence in the legal system, and even us. Because it's like, oh, because he's a politician, you pretended that you're doing something and did nothing.
Well,
you hear me? I look at things differently. An offense is an offense. It doesn't matter who commits it. And let the law apply.
Thank you very much. That is Joe Osei-Owusu. He has the task. So next week, by this time, he's counting down to Saturday to see his work bear fruits. I'm grateful that you joined us.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.